So, you need to be very sure of who you are before you start the process. So we understand a lot of you are going through your thesis projects. Congratulations, you've made it this far. Not everyone makes it to the end of the architectural school, a lot of you know that. So it's a time of great joy, but at the same time there are a few things that you should be very careful of, because this is going to determine where you end up after you graduate. So I would like to talk about five things that you need to know before you start your architectural thesis. I've made a video on selecting your thesis topic somewhere here, and let's move on and discuss point number one. Who is this? That's my wife. I have to take this. I'm sorry. Cut. Alright, so let's go back to point number one. Start with the end in mind. So I love preconceived notions. It's good to have visions, it's good to daydream, it's good to sort of know where you're going with the process before you start the process itself. So some people might say it's a biased approach towards finding where you want to go. But for me, it's very important to have some sort of a destination in mind before you start off on the journey, because almost definitely you are going to sort of change. And okay, she got it. And she messages again. Come from a place of love. So yeah, one, of course you're going to change midway somewhere, and you'll sort of keep jumping. You'll have different folks in the process, but if you don't have an image or a vision of where you want to get to, or probably the type of architecture that you want to produce as your thesis, then it's very difficult for you to take the right decisions, and not all decisions that you will make are going to be based on rational things. So I would always tell you to go in, look at the type of architecture that you really like, and try to see if this is something that you can imagine doing, or is this something that you want to make part of your thesis. Because at the end of the day, your architectural portfolio from your university is going to be primarily based on your final year projects and the thesis itself. That's the first thing people are going to see after you graduate. So point number two, your thesis topic should make you look smart. Okay, it sounds superficial, but hear me out. You should have an imaginative title for sure. Something that evokes my emotions and my anticipation at the same time. I should anticipate something, even if it's exactly something that you haven't done. So when I come into your space, your headspace, I should come with my preconceived notions on the title that you've given me, and that almost always drives a lot of positive intellectual discussions, and at the end of the day, you just want jurors, or you just want people who are more activated and who are more interested in what you're doing, instead of them thinking like, hey, okay, so in a class of 30, there are only 5 interesting people out there, and for some reason I was given the boring one, with all due respect, that is. So titles matter in life. It should make you sound as if you're the smartest person in the room, if not in the university or in your region, canton, city, country. So it's almost always better to be crazy than to be mediocre. And that brings me to the next point. This one is pretty interesting. So on one hand, you're trying to be super intellectual or super cool by having a cool title that might not reveal everything about what you're about to do, but just give them glimpses. But at the same time, you need to understand that whoever comes in as a juror, or someone who's there to grade your thesis, has to criticize, or has to have that space to go in and put in his points or her points. to feel satisfied, because it's a two-way dance at the end of the day. People who are coming in to look at your work, they want to give you feedback. Everyone feels smart when they give their feedback and you take it in a good way. Nobody wants to feel dumb, especially people with a lot of experience. When they come in and when they're looking at your work, they want to say that, hey, you missed this part, but I feel that, if you would have clustered this together, maybe that would have been a better idea. And you say, oh yeah, of course, that's a brilliant idea. And yes, that can be done. Sure, you're absolutely right, but it doesn't change anything. So what I mean to say is, when you design weaknesses into the process itself, those weaknesses are not foundational weaknesses, or they're not structural weaknesses. For example, certain functions have to sort of work in a certain way. So you should not completely destroy conventions and jeopardize your thesis, because then someone can say that you have absolutely no idea what you're doing. So what I'm trying to say is, allow people to have their opinions, especially who are going to come and grade you, and integrate that in criticism, or integrate that into your process. So when you go to the final jury, there are a lot of people who have become part of the process and who become co-owners of the design of the process that you're doing. Brings me to point number 4. Choose your poison. Be super theoretical or be uber functional. So generally, you need to put yourself, brand yourself as an architect in your university, with respect to your colleagues and with respect to the teachers that you're dealing with, and with respect to everyone. So you have this 1 year or 6 months or 4 months, whatever is left right now, to brand yourself as a particular someone. So everyone has boxes of categorization in their heads. You need to put yourself in everyone's box. So by the time the jurors come in, you have a reputation, and that reputation has to be within your own people, and it should supersede that. And eventually, when your teachers and when your jurors invite other people in, they say, oh, we have someone who is super dash, who likes to do super crazy dash. So when you enter into that headspace of people around you, then it automatically sort of pushes you towards a certain direction, and then you tend to fulfill those expectations, and there is nothing wrong with fulfilling these superficial expectations, because it drives you forward. And any drive that pushes you forward, in my opinion, is a good drive. You can get it from negative things or positive things, but as long as you're going forward, that's good. So if you want to do a super functional thesis, and stick to it, because it's very important for you to stand for something. And if you stand for something early on in the process, then you'll get somewhere. So you need to be very sure of who you are before you start the process. And this brings me to the 5th superficial point, and that is have fun. Now, I hate to break it to you, but probably this is going to be your last chance in a very long time to do whatever the fuck you want to do in architecture. I would advise you to pick a topic which is interesting, makes you look smart. It occupies people's headspace in the right way, people who are around you. So in order for them to tag you as either a super theoretical or a super functional person, or someone who's good at ABC, going into the process, pick the right topic for your thesis, and then have fun with it. It's becoming a really long video. Thank you very much for your time, and let me know if you want me to talk about something particular. That's me. Hello, testing the sound. Where the fuck are the cameras? Okay.